A few years back, I was nursing a woman who was on her deathbed, and probably that was the most critical learning phase of my life because I saw her dying every day, and I was giving her painkillers because she was suffering from the terminal cancer. There was no hope of any recovery whatsoever. All that we had to do is just help her cope up with the pain. And I still remember her face glowing, so beautiful, so peaceful. I was pretty young, fresh from the medical college, and understanding the agony one could go through in the last phase of cancer. And I watched that glow. I watched that satisfaction, fulfillment she had in her eyes, in her demeanor, completely peaceful. She looked so divine. That was the time I realized that suffering and pain are very different. One could be in so much of pain and yet not suffer, and somebody could have no pain and yet suffer a lot. My search began, and I started understanding why do people suffer. Of course, I've had many people asking me, why me? What have I done? I haven't hurt anyone. I haven't really damaged anyone. I haven't cheated anyone. I've been an ethical person. I remain in integrity, and yet I seem to be going through a lot of suffering. Why? Over a period of time, as a wellness expert, or rather, psychospiritual wellness expert, I understood some of the reasons behind suffering. And reason number one is guilt, known or unknown guilt. Why unknown? There is some guilt you don't even think you're really guilty of. For example, abortions, betraying a partner, extramarital affairs. You think it is pretty cool, it's pretty normal, it's pretty all right, it's now a trend and everybody goes through it, so why should I be feeling guilty? However, people who are suffering, and when I really help them get over the guilt, they tremendously find a shift in their life and lifestyle. I had a lady whose husband would never give her extra pocket money, and her saving from her household expenses were not enough. And she would pick up money from her husband's pocket when he is sleeping. And she would do our courses. I said, no, you cannot do that. You're not going to do any of the courses through that pocket money or that stolen money. She says, no, but it's rightfully mine. My husband doesn't give me. What do? I just take it from him. And I said, no, if you're meant to get it, you will get it. And that's what happened. She ethically got that money and finally enrolled for the course. And she realized that as she stopped stealing money from her husband, which she didn't even find that it was abnormal, she stopped suffering. She had a lot of health issues and challenges, social issues and challenges. She had emotional hurts and challenges. A lot of relief came through. She got into the integrity, which she didn't even know that she was out of integrity. For a lot of women, it's a normal thing to ask for extra money, save something for herself, spend her way without letting in laws or husband know about it or parents know about that. And there are so many such small little things we keep doing. Sometimes unethical ways of earning in the name of business, saving taxes, which are unethical, several things. And then we wonder. There was a lady who was asking me that I don't know why people take money from me and they never return. I always get betrayal financially. When I closely interacted with her and worked with her therapeutically, I realized she's not really been honest to her husband. The story came down when there was a demonetization and she had a lot of money, which husband didn't even know she had. So when she was not giving the amount that was due to be given to her husband, obviously the karma returns. Now, am I here to preach you and tell you that yes, you need to suffer because you've done something wrong? No. You invite suffering at the subconscious level if you realize that you've done something wrong. So, what are karmas? The soul only seeks the experience, and the soul wants to experience what is it to be on the other side. So, if you are unfair with someone, probably the soul will seek the experience of what is it to go through an unfairness. If you've been cheating someone, the soul will seek the experience of what is it to be cheated. If you've been making others happy, the soul will even seek the experience of what is it to be happy. And it goes on. Same way, if you've made anybody feel inferior or anybody suffer because of you, the soul may choose to let you go through some suffering so that you know what is it to go through the suffering. Now, not necessarily every time you do something wrong, you suffer. But if you feel guilty about that, you do suffer. Now, that guilt can be conscious, the subconscious, and at the soul level. The conscious guilt is often due to certain preconditionings and morals. Say, for example, saying thank you is important in certain cultures, and if you've forgotten to say thank you, you might feel guilty for not saying thank you, even though you didn't mean it. That's cultural. It comes at the conscious level because of our programming. Subconscious guilt could be absolutely unknown to you. Most people, due to abortions or extramarital affairs, or even thinking of some other man while being with them, their husband or a boyfriend, would feel guilty and yet not acknowledge that at the conscious level. Obviously, there is a subconscious guilt, which comes up therapeutically when a person regresses or goes through certain therapeutic work where we access the subconscious mind. And there are soul level guilts. We borrow, we inherit, we bring it forward from some past life pre programming. Does that mean you had a past life? No. You bring it forward, and there is a whole long explanation to it, which is beyond religion, but we will not get into it. As it may sound very complex, that, oh my God, now how do I trace which ancestral suffering, which soul level suffering, which subconscious suffering? What am I really suffering because of, and what is my guilt? The solutions are simpler than the problems that we create. Why is it simple? You simply have to forgive yourself. Keep forgiving yourself as much as you can. That's the greatest favor you can do when you are suffering. Focus on forgiving. Focus on how to release yourself from your guilt. There are specific radical statements that you can use for your suffering and for your guilt, and also work in a much more therapeutic way to trace the precise suffering. Ultimately, the healing comes or completes when you understand the brilliance in the suffering. The soul doesn't want you to suffer just like that. There's so much to learn and there's so much to get out of that suffering. And when you actually grasp and understand what's the learning and what's the brilliant gift for me, you practically complete your phase of suffering and remain aligned to the beautiful offering. This may take little time, but it's certainly possible. My tip for you would be first of all forgive and also ensure you forgive yourself. Secondly, try and remain in integrity and honesty. I'm saying two words. Honesty is something in a daily dealing. Integrity is at different levels of your existence. Only you can decide whether you're being in integrity or not. Third, discover the brilliance in all your suffering, if at all you're suffering, and embrace the brilliance. When you do these three things, you realize how beautifully you can rise beyond the need for suffering. The problems and pains may still remain, and yet you may not suffer, because suffering is the choice that we have made. Suffering is our response to the external perception of pain. And you certainly have a say in the matter. You certainly can say no to suffering. And I'm sure after listening to this, all of us would resolve to rise beyond suffering. Lead a very happy life. Thank you for listening. This is Aatmn Parmar, psycho spiritual wellness coach and the founder of Radical. Have a great life ahead. If you ever wish to join us for a free karma clearance program. This is a wonderful beginning to complete a lot of suffering and rise beyond suffering therapeutically with self help and self healing work. All the best.